3, let's go.
Racing is all about precision, but do you really know where you're losing time? Your braking, throttle control, and racing line. Every detail matters, but without the right data, you're just guessing. This is where Race Data gives you the edge. Instantly analyze your lap data, see exactly where you're losing time, and make real improvements. Know your weaknesses, fix them, get faster. Stop guessing, start improving. Try Race Data today.
Hello everybody and welcome to Road America for the second round of the Radical Sim Racing America's Championship here on RaceSpotTV. After a great opening round at the North Side, we've come to North America for the first time this season, ready for round number 2 of our championship. It's myself, Ian O'Leary, and Ron Miles taking you through the action here this afternoon. It's good to be alongside you again, Ron, after a great opening round. It's Road America, and based on what we saw in the official split on Friday night, we're in for a treat tonight.
And we are absolutely in for one. That Friday 2100 GMT top split race was an absolute barn burner with a brilliant finish. Albeit some of the drivers we saw in that session were some of the ones that you see in the European Championship, also broadcasted here on RaceSpotTV. But this track, it is just conducive to put on some fantastic racing with these draft-heavy Radical SR10s. If that Friday race was anything to talk about, I think we're in for a good one.
It's the start of 3 North American races in a row. We're staying in the Americas for the first half of this season now after our visit to the North Side. Still not clear what the next rounds are going to be after round 5. Of course, they will be revealed to us at some point in the near future. But don't forget, this series follows the official series schedule. And so that means that that they have been decided effectively in the future. We just don't know what they're quite going to be just for the moment. Of course, there is a lot to race for this season, as there always is in the Radical Sim Racing European and America's Championships. In both realms, if you like, the Drivers' Champion gets a 12-month free iRacing subscription, free entry to next year's championship, and the qualification to the World Finals. In fact, all of the top 7 get a qualification to this year's World Finals. P2 also getting that free entry into next season. Just outside of that top 7, you get the qualification to the Last Chance World Finals qualifier. That is going to be hotly contested in November. The the teams champions in each class, I'm looking at the row below, of course, a track in iRacing per driver and free entry to next year's calendar. And for the vice champions, they also get free entry into the 2026 season. So lots of entries to go around if, of course, you are good enough to score well over the course of the races. Scoring well so far are the current championship standings. And Ryan Odo, who took the opening race victory on the season, he beat Alberto Diaz in a great opening race at the North Side, actually. John Butterfield finished on the podium with them. Lucas Vieira and Jerome Sanders were just inside the top 5 with Aidan Young up there as well. Cameron Martineau and David Unga were a little bit further down and behind some of the AM drivers, actually, who have scored ahead of them. Jose Antonio Gonzalez was the best of them, ahead of Charles Krasic, with Colby Buck just a further point behind. J.R. Gregory and Christopher Reagan rounded out the top 5, with Joel Jacklin next, then Adrian Fernandez, John Belloade, Cedric Ayan and Jacob Coleman rounding out the top 10 in the AM standings as well. So plenty to play for there. It's even closer, I would say, in the AM standings maybe than what it is in the pros. If you indeed don't remember what happened at the North Side or weren't with us, then where were you? Because it was a fantastic way to open out the season in the Radical Sim Racing America's Championship. These are some of the highlights from the race. The race start, which was a pretty lively one as well, nicely maintained and controlled through turn number 1, but a bit of contact down the hill on the way towards the Hatzenbach. One of the drivers just ending up scraping down the barrier, but the leaders generally staying together quite well early on until this. The opening pit stop of the day was a manic one. I don't think I've ever seen something quite like it. 6 drivers all drafting it off of each other for the first 2 laps, and at the end of it, they all came into pit lane all at once. That would split the field up a little bit more, as some drivers would accidentally take tyres. Some different fuel strategies would go on as well, but in the end, it was Aidan Young who would become our focus for a lot of the remainder of the race. He unfortunately accidentally took tyres in that opening pit stop, and so made some fantastic passes. This, the pick of the bunch, as Luis Miguel Perez was just trying to stay out of the way. Aidan Young slipped straight through the middle. Out front, though, Ryan Odo was just staying clear of Roberto Diaz, who was closing in on him towards the end. The two of them were having a fantastic tit-for-tat battle, but it was Ryan Odo who took the race victory and the opening points lead here after round number 1 at the North Side by just 1.1 seconds over Roberto Diaz. Further behind, Jose Gonzalez was able to take the victory in the AM class after 1 hour of racing. What a race it was, Ron. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And that sort of race into the pit lane is something we're not likely to see again at any point this season.
This is going to be a very odd comparison, but you may need to stay with me here. That race into the pits, it kind of reminded me of the silly Olympics from Monty Python when they had the marathon for the incontinent, and they would just have a bunch of people file into the bathroom every like 50 feet. That's what that reminded me of. It's a very bizarre comparison, but anyone who's seen that scene from Monty Python's Flying Circus will know exactly what I'm talking about there.
Well, we haven't worked together very long, Ron, but you will learn this very quickly. I'm not good with popular culture.
Fair enough.
So unsurprisingly, I don't know what you're talking about. Even if you're very much on the side of the audience, I suspect most of them do understand what you're going on about. I don't. So I'm sorry about that. I can't
most of the time, I don't even know what I'm going on about. So you're good. Don't worry.
I can't contribute to that conversation, but yeah, that will make sense to people at home, I'm sure. There is Ryan Odo, the race winner from 3 weeks ago. It is now. It was a great drive from him. You just wonder about the rest of the season now. Can he continue this forward? Can he maybe even keep the points lead the whole way throughout the season, I wonder, where we're a long way away from knowing whether that's even going to be possible. But it was a great drive from him, especially to sustain the pressure from Alberto Diaz towards the end of that race at the Nordschleife and take the opening round of the season.
Oh, it was an absolute stormer of a drive for Ryan Odo behind the wheel of that number 15 machine. He was quick all throughout that race, and what I saw with that opening round of the season at the Nordschleife was a different Ryan Odo than what I saw in 2024. I covered the Radical Americas Championship that season, and during it, he got so close to winning that Pro Championship. It was so close, but so far away. It was a race at the Nordschleife that ended up sealing his fate and all of that. He lost it in the final round of that season, but now to get up and running here for 2025, that was a completely different Ryan Odo. It was a fast Ryan Odo, but a patient Ryan Odo at that. He's got to be a driver that I think we have to keep tabs on all throughout the season.
There's, oh, right. Is that J.R. Gregory? Said it was Gregory Costello a couple of moments ago. There's the onboard camera. Anyway. And up over the top of the rise for Gregory, over the top at turn 6. Can't really see where you're going. Then the fast right-hander, pretty much flat out, just having to make a small adjustment on the turn in there before the hurry downs, the downhill braking zone in towards turn 8. And there is Alberto Diaz, who came really close, actually, to overhauling Odo. Wonder what he's going to be feeling about sort of reflecting on that race, if you like, after the opening round, and how he'll be thinking about this race as well as he gets ready for round number 2 of this season.
And that's a very good point to raise there, Ewan, kind of talking about the mindset that a lot of these drivers find themselves being in all throughout this season. You got some situations where you have a bad race, and then considering how spread out these races are, it kind of sits in your head. It stews there for a while. I mean, obviously, there's a saying in our business, Ewan, that you're only as good as your last show. So for these drivers, the kind of saying would probably be you're only as good as your last race. And if you have a bad performance, that usually sticks in your mind for a rather long time. So these drivers want to keep that going as quickly as they possibly can, have those good results, and not bury yourself mentally throughout this season. Being in the right frame of mind from season start, way at the very start of the year, all the way through to October when we bring this season to a close in the European and America's Championship. Super vital if you want to try and do well.
Yes, Diego Zuccarelli coming over the line here in number 26 with a 59.6. That is going to be just above the AMs, but not above any of the pros, if that even counts. Doesn't look like it does this time around. Alfredo Teresa Souza comes over the line as well in number 30. This looks like the start of a flying lap to me. See whether time pops on the board, and indeed it is the start of an outlap. We've got just under 20 in the field here today, and so around half, just under half, or over rather, half of the drivers have set times. There's Gregory Costello. All sorts of moving going on in the background, by the way, but he looked like he was picking himself from out of the wall on that occasion, and well, maybe making the classic mistake in towards turn 5.
And turn 5, that's going to be a super important corner in this race that we have coming up. I mean, based off what we saw in that Friday official race here on RaceSpot and on the iRacing YouTube channel as well, you got 3 main overtaking opportunities here. Turn 1, obviously, at the end of the long start finish straightaway, big braking zone. Turn 5, pretty much the exact same case. And that corner right there, Canada corner, that's going to be a super good overtaking opportunity that these drivers will look to try and utilize all throughout tonight. It's going to be a good one here at Road America. This track has never really done these SR10s poorly. I even remember last season there was a clip from the finish that we had in one of those races that ended up being shared on the iRacing social media pages. So these cars, I don't know what it is. There must be something in the air up there in Wisconsin that brings out the best in these SR10s.
Charles Krasicki, meanwhile, goes to the top of the AM standing. Cedric Oyon goes into ninth place. We were watching, following Miguel Perez there, and this looks like it's going to be a time up towards the front as well, as Jose Gonzalez goes to the very front of the field. What's this time going to be? It's not going to be a competitive one. That will have to be wound up again for Perez, and he's going to have to go again in this session if he's got any more laps available. Here comes Adrian Fernandez to the line as well. Zuccarelli, final of the pros, gets himself onto the board, but still not even in front of all of the AM drivers, unfortunately for him, off of the start here. There goes Fernandez over the line. He does not on this occasion. 3 minutes to go. Not long for you to get your lap time in right now, and Ryan Odo still holding that best time in this session.
And trying to see if anyone is going to challenge Ryan Odo in the dying breaths of this qualifying session. Will also race. It's going to be a very close battle in the AM category all throughout to this race. We kind of raised it talking about the championship point situation, how close that AM category was. J.R. Gregory, one of our colleagues here at RaceSpotTV, and my old radical buddy, currently finds himself qualified in P11, finished fourth of those AM drivers in the opening race of the season at the Nordschleife. That AM category, you know, usually think, okay, yeah, focusing on the pros, they're going to be battling for all the glory, but those AM battles are always so incredibly enticing to watch as well. It's so vacuum sealed together from racetrack to racetrack all throughout these seasons. Feeling that AM category is going to be pretty enticing to watch as well.
It certainly will. We will keep an eye on both as we move forward tonight. 2 minutes remaining in the qualifying session. Still 3 drivers without times on the board. Gregory Castillo is not one of them. He is only in 14th place for the moment, though, as he gets on the brakes now for Canada corner. One of the better overtaking chances on the lap. Whether we're going to see a last lap pass maybe into this corner, I'm not sure that history is going to repeat itself with that regarding this week, but you never know, I suppose. Sanders and Butterfield, meanwhile, just trading lap times there. That's Graham Sanders maintaining 4th place. Ahead of Butterfield, who remains in 5th. But again, the top 5 so close on times that we might have a similar situation to last week. At least in the first run of this race, we might well see some very close racing between those 5, especially in the early moments.
And one thing that was super important in that Nordschleife race back a couple of weeks ago to kick this season off was that run through pit lane. It made a huge difference in terms of who was the winner and who were the losers at the end of that race. Here at Road America, I feel like we may have to worry about those pit stops a little bit more. I've kind of raised in some of these broadcasts in both the official season and the America's Championship season opener we had a couple of weeks ago. The brakes in these SR10s, it is such an incredibly fine line that you have to run. It's a matter of 5% between having a major lockup and overshooting the corner, or just overshooting the corner as is because he didn't slow down in time. There's such a fine line in terms of being able to pull up through into these braking zones, and that's what separates a good radical driver from a great radical driver. And around a track like this, where you're coming into the pits at basically terminal velocity with a little bit of elevation, kind of making the car a bit light, which will make it even more tricky. That pit entry is going to be maybe one of the sketchiest we've had thus far this season. I'll say that's even more sketchy than the Nordschleife last time, as we saw Odo wheeling it off to the top end of the circuit.
Odo might well have gone off there. Well, he kept it on the road, but whether this is going to be an improvement or not is very different. And with Alberto Diaz going quicker right now, this could be trouble for Ryan Odo. They're just going to run out of time. Oh, I think Odo got away with that, because I thought Alberto Diaz was going to go quicker in that final lap time there. That would have been close, but we're never going to find out, because he crossed the line with just too little seconds remaining in this race. And so he will start from second. Let's have a look at the starting grid. Ready for round number 2 here from Road America in the Radical Sim Racing America's Championship in 2025. It's Ryan Odo who survives to get pole ahead of Alberto Diaz. Aidan Young will be third ahead of the geodesic teammates of Graham Sanders and John Butterfield. Then it's Jose Gonzalez, the first of the AM drivers, just over a second off pole. John Bellowid and Derek Coe are on the second row, if you like, for the AMs. Diego Zuccarelli sort of stuck in amongst them, with Charles Krasic in 10th. Then J.R. Gregory and Adrian Fernandez, who are sharing row 6. Chris Reagan and Colby Book will be next to Cedric Oyon and Gregory Castillo, with Alfredo Torres Souza and Luis Miguel Perez rounding out the 18-car field. All of whom actually got times in the end, although you'd say that Perez is going to be going a bit quicker than what that lap time suggests over the course of this race. 1 hour on the clock again here on 21 degrees on the circuit. Not a warm track temperature. A great race ahead of us surely here at Road America tonight.
And just to convert that into Fahrenheit, because I have a small little pea brain, that is 65 degrees ambient Fahrenheit and 69 degrees Fahrenheit for the track temperature. That's pretty chilly, honestly. It's a good window still for these race cars, but with no formation lap and a standing start, that runoff into turn number 1 is going to be rather terrifying for these racers. I do not envy their experience hitting that brake pedal trying to get stopped off into turn number 1. It's going to be a tough ride. These SR10s take a little bit to get into the groove, but let's get this race underway.
Revs rise at Road America. And the green flag waves. Ryan Odo trying to convert pole position into an early race lead here in the second round of the championship, but he's not going to do it. Oh, what a shot from Alberto Diaz on the outside line. The second phase of the acceleration there was electric. And Alberto Diaz takes the lead ahead of Ryan Odo, who only just hung on to pole position anyway. It's Diaz ahead of Odo. Then it's Young, Butterfuhr, and then Graham Sanders to round out the top 5. The pros single file after a lead change in towards turn 1.
And that was not a good start for Ryan Odo, but he now finds himself with a catbird seat hang down this back straightaway into the Marine sweep right now through turn number 4. That turn 5 corner got to be super important. A good overtaking opportunity for these racers. Look at Aiden Young trying to make some moves, make him hay while the sun is shining in the 427 machine. Looking a little bit farther in the back. Looks like everyone gets through turn number 5 without any major incident. Ryan Odo withstood that challenge from Young, but some drivers banging doors a little bit farther in the mid-pack.
I think it was Jarrett Coe and J.R. Gregory who banged doors there, and Coe is blinking slightly as well. Gregory was trying to get past for 10th, and it didn't quite work. Meanwhile, Diego Zuccarelli gets into 7th. That's 2 place gained so far. Nobody's spun off on this opening lap, but let's have another look at the start nevertheless. In towards turn number 1 down at the back. I think there's a few internet problems for somebody towards the back end of the field. You can just see how carefully everybody's taking it in towards turn 1, just because of the proclivity to maybe problems on the opening lap. Oh, that's a bit wide as well from somebody through the kink there before Canada corner. And they'll get away with it though, is at the end of the lap, the first lap. Diaz is going to lead ahead of Odo, and Young, who's looking really here, a little bit wide through Canada corner that time, but he was the one looking for moves at turn 5 and at Canada corner there as well.
And you can see these drivers still running around this racetrack despite the fact they have 1 lap under their belt. These cars not entirely in the groove at this point. The tires still slightly cold. These racers looking to settle into a nice rhythm in this race. And you can tell that based off the fact these drivers are sawing at the steering wheel and mowing a lot of grass heading through the top end of the circuit. But Diaz gonna try and hold the inside line. Odo looking on the outside. That ended in tears in the Friday official race a couple of days ago. But the front of the field very early on into this America's race, it ends smooth.
Oh, outside line for Odo. He's just going to get for that cutback maybe through turn 3. That's a good run from Young though, and he's going to have the double slipstream. The disadvantage, of course, is that Ryan Odo is going to get slipstream of his own here, so Young can't just duck out too early. But this is going to be a big challenge now for Diaz to hold on to the lead. Here comes Odo. Where's Young going to go? He can't really go anywhere here. It's too narrow for him to make this 3 wide. Odo on the outside line. Diaz breaks really late on the inside, and he holds on to the lead here. Again, defense towards turn 6. He knows he's under pressure here, but he survived that early attack on lap 2.
And now I mentioned earlier on in this show talking about the smarter and the more clever Ryan Odo that's a bit more patient than he was last season. This is going to be the test of that. How is he going to perform under pressure? He's trying to apply some pressure to the back of the 108 car of Ubaldo Diaz, but he's got Aiden Young, John Butterfuhr, Graham Sanders, and then a little bit farther back, you also got the likes of Jose Gonzalez involved in this pack as well. Ryan Odo in the midst of that hornet's nest. How's it going to shake out for him? Is he going to be able to keep calm, keep cool, keep collected, realize, hey, we still got 56.5 minutes of this race left to go, or is Ryan Odo going to crack? This is the real test of it.
In towards Canada corner, they seem less willing to make the moves through there this time round than maybe what we saw on Friday, but that's expected considering this is a much longer race. Good evening, by the way, to Luke Crowley, who is watching along and saying that his money is on Ubaldo Diaz to win. If you are watching on, then do let us know who you think is going to win, if you like. I don't know what he's doing up at this time in the morning. But anyway,
says you.
It's a good point. Over the line for the leaders again. We just check in on the bottom of your screen there with some of the AM leading battles. There goes Young at the top of your screen. Meanwhile, he's going to be pulling to the inside line, but Odo's still going to get the slipstream. He's going to be boxed in fact, here. And Odo has to back off. Aiden Young moves up to second.
Aiden Young getting a move done. That was well done from Young, the driver of the 427 car. Haven't been commentating on him for a whole lot of time, and he's making his Radical America's Series debut here this season. But in that race at the Nordschleife, if it wasn't for a bad run through the pits, he would have been in contention for the race win. I have a good feeling about that. That or a podium. Either way, Aiden Young very quick on debut. Ryan Odo making it a battle of the two young Americans heading off into turn number 5. Look at that, running a little bit wide is Odo. That's like a help out of chance at all. He's going to fall into the crutches of John Bodefer on the 67 machine.
And Jarrett Coe and Adrian Fernandez, maybe both have spun or half spun in the AM battle. They are falling down the field, and Fernandez continues to fall down the field. Actually, he might have been off again. We'll get a replay in a few moments' time as to that, but Ryan Odo is having a difficult couple of laps here. He's slipping through the field. He qualified on pole. Diaz got through on him pretty quickly and then defended from him quite well. Young now got through, and now John Bodefer is through now as well into 3rd place. This is not a great start to the day for Ryan Odo.
Yeah, this is not looking good at all for the driver of the number 15 car. But, you know, I mentioned that thing about Ryan Odo remaining patient. You need to realize that, hey, we got 54 and a half minutes of this race left to go. Still have 2 pit stops to worry about. There's a lot of time left to go. So we see the moment for Adrian Fernandez. That's heading over the crest into turn number 6. Looks like he just skidded off the track. Not entirely sure what went wrong there, but he also is bringing some more debris onto the racetrack as we see another moment for Gregory Castellano.
I'll tell you what, there goes Gregory Castillo in towards turn 5. I'll tell you what the problem is for Fernandez. His front right wheel isn't turning. We'll see in this camera shot here. Watch as he turns. Look, it's not turning at all. It's not doing anything other than being scraped. Oh, now it will turn, but only while it's going through the gravel. That front right wheel is not providing any sort of assistance at all, I'm afraid. So that's why he's struggling so much. Must have been due to earlier contact. It might have been. Jarrett Coe was certainly the first one to go around. Now, if I'm putting the dots together here, Coe might have spun and then got hit by Fernandez. Coe has got damage clearly because he's in already, and clearly Fernandez has got damage because we've seen it. So that will be my guess as to what's happened there, as Ryan Odo at least regains his 3rd place in towards turn 5.
And should be noted at the present moment, running in P6 is your AM leader of Jose Gonzalez. The number 21 driver finds himself with a pretty big lead at the moment in that AM category. I have to go a little bit farther back in the field to find Charles Krasik in the 153 machine running in 8th at the moment. Here's Jarrett Coe coming out of pit lane. He may have had a moment hang down into turn number 1. Actually, no, I believe he just exited the pits without any further incident there. So called my shot, and that was not the case. He's currently classed down in P17. Not a good start for him, but here is Jose Gonzalez in the Vimo Racing Team number 21 car. The AM leader has a pretty sizable cushion as it stands currently. I have to go back about 4 seconds farther down the road to find Krasik, but he wants to keep that cushion because once you go back to Krasik, you've got himself, you've got Ben Liddy, you've got Chris Reagan, Colby Buck, Cedric. Oh yeah, pretty much the rest of the field is AM drivers. So Jose Gonzalez hoping to have that cushion of not only the time gap, but also the gap of Diego Zuccarelli between those 2 cars. So we'll see a moment for another AM driver, that being J.R. Gregory, off into turn number 8.
Oh no. Oh, J.R. Gregory just having the initial spin, and then the spin as he tried to get back going again. He's now 14th, of course, my commentary partner for the European Series that goes on in the Sunday nights as well. Next to which will be in 2 weeks, by the way, as Aiden Young goes to the inside line. Although Boda Diaz, first real race for the lead since lap 1, and it's absolutely door-to-door here through the opening corner of this racetrack. Young will have his nose in front for turn 3, and so Diaz Sully's going to have to turn across him here and go for the moving towards 5 instead. Try and get the run here. Now Young hasn't got a very good exit because, of course, he was on that narrow line. Here comes Diaz. Where's Odo going to go? Is he going to make it 3 wide? Not quite. It's not very wide, this circuit, and so he's not really got anywhere to go here, Ryan Odo, unless he wants to do something audacious here. Diaz on the outside line. Young wanted to hold on with a bit of late braking on the inside, but Alberto Diaz gets his lead back again almost as quickly as he lost it.
Now, I thought that all that John Bodefer was maybe going to try and pounce on Ryan Odo. He did not go for it, hang down into turn number 5, but still the front 4 vacuum sealed together about 3/4 of a second separating all of those racers. And only a second between your leader of Diaz and your 5th place runner of Graham Sanders. This is looking like a really good race as it stands presently. Hoping to God that Aiden Young's camera isn't the exact same view that he has at the moment. That would make this race even more intense from his perspective. But the 427 car running in P2 2 at the present moment. Still within striking distance of Diaz, about a quarter of a second separating those two racers through the kink.
Sorry, that tickled me. Braden Young. It's clear that he can see a bit better than we can see him right now because he's going for the lead again here. Outside of Canada corner, but Diaz breaks late on the inside again. And that's very much been his strategy so far. If somebody tries to go around the outside of him, then, well, they're going to have a very nasty time indeed. Even into the final corner, Young is so close. The top 5 covered by less than a second after 10 minutes of racing. This is racing at Road America. This is exactly what you come to expect from America's National Park of Speed. It's absolutely fantastic in the Radical SR10s. Now then, onto the front straight they go again. The top 3 especially close here. Is Young biding his time though? Because he knows that last time he went for the move here, he only went and lost it on the next straight. But he's going for it again here. Looking for a better outcome this time. Inside line at turn 1 and a better exit as well. Is Diaz going to just turn across him and get the run onto the next straight this time? Or is Young going to just shepherd him out wide? The second has happened, but the slipstream will still absolutely be there. Now, Odo is going to be very much a factor in this one now. He's less than a quarter of a second off the lead as well here as he just gets boxed in. Can he make it free wide? Can he go anywhere here, Ryan Odo? It doesn't really look like it. And that brings Botafour into play as you were talking about earlier on. Diaz gets back to the lead. It's like watching a replay of the previous lap.
Yeah, case of deja vu. This race feeling like Groundhog Day for some of these drivers. Starting to feel like the race is beginning to repeat itself. But for Ryan Odo, still stuck behind those two as they went side by side off into turn number 5. Even with the esports line, shall we call it, that some of these racers may take, being completely on the other side of that entry curb off into turn 5. Still not enough room for Odo to realistically get a move done in these SR10s. They're not the largest vehicles in the world, but still 3 wide around this racetrack is going to be a tough ask as John Bendlin has a moment heading off into turn number 5, locked up a wheel. I think he was trying to get a move done on, I believe that may have been Charles Krasik, and did not work out for him at all. Bendlin dropping down to 9th, currently P3 of the M runners is side by side at the front of the field between Young and Diaz.
Wow, Young gets the lead there ahead of Alberto Diaz. That was late braking on the outside line and clear. So Diaz on the inside traditionally has been braking really late and holding on to the lead quite well on the inside line. But that time round, he couldn't quite do it. And the roles are reversed this time. So 12 minutes gone, and for the first time, Diaz is going to have to come back through on the straight. He's, for the first time, by the way, officially, going to not lead a lap as well. He's led every lap of this race so far, even despite the overtaking that's gone on. He's going to draft past Amissi here. Now, is he going to get re-overtaken in towards turn 5 like he always did to Young?
And one thing that you'll always see in these SR10 races, especially around a track like this where you've got a long flat-out blast followed a couple of corners later by another long flat-out blast, you're going to see the game of Radical SR10 leapfrog. Not your average school playground game of leapfrog, though. This one's being played at about 150 miles an hour terminal velocity in these SR10s, with these drivers battling for some nice prizes and some championship points as well. Look at Odo trying to get a move done on the outside of and Young off into turn number 5. Not close enough on the outside line to get a move done. I think Odo, though, credit where credit's due, he has withstood the pressure that he has faced thus far in this race. Granted, he's running in 3rd, which was probably not what he had in mind after starting this race from the pole, but considering we still have 47 minutes of racing action left to go, you can't say he's out of it, considering he's only about 7/10 of a second off the lead.
What's interested me that time round, actually, is that Diaz was able to hold on to the lead on the way towards turn 5 in a way that Young just didn't when he'd made the passing towards turn 1. That's an interesting difference that those two have experienced there, and I can't really put my finger on why that would have really been the case, but clearly Nathan Young not nowhere to come back past again. Is it going to be Canada corner instead where he's going to make his moves? If it happens on the last lap like that, then he'll be absolutely pleased. But Diaz not going to let that happen. He's on the inside line. Oh, he's not given that much space to Young, who couldn't quite keep it on the outside there. It's aggressive defending, I've got to say, from Diaz. And I'm not sure I can see this lasting to the very end if he keeps defending quite like that at this circuit, if I'm honest with you. We'll see, of course, but it's pretty aggressive so far from our race leader. Oh, and it is happening again. The top 5 are in. 14 minutes gone. And make sure you don't hit the back of each other here. Oh, they have! Oh, there's contact! Just as I was saying it. You can't hit the back of each other. The concertina effect there is going to be massive. And they've hit each other. It's drama on pit lane at Road America.
And that was Bodefer and Odo coming to blows off into pit entry. Thankfully, these drivers have a fast repair at their hands. There's only one. They can't afford to have another moment like that. I'm sure there's some pretty significant damage on those race cars. I mentioned earlier on in the show how difficult that pit entry was going to be, and those drivers proved me 100% correct. All the drivers in the top 13 deciding that now is the time to pit. How's this going to work out for Ian Young? This is where his race went wrong last time out. It's going to go very well for Graham Sanders. He's going to have a short run through the pits. Aiden Young going to have a short run as well. Ryan Odo going to exit out. Diaz not having a good run as we see the replay of Bodefer giving the hip check of a lifetime to Odo on pit entry.
Clumsy from Bodefer, really. Driver who should know better than that. He's run straight into the back of Ryan Odo, who's actually let his teammate through. But in the end, they were always planning to have Sanders go on a short fuel first time round anyway, so it doesn't seem that it will matter. 10.9 seconds from Sanders. It was 15.9 from Odo, 15.7 from Young. So I'm not sure how Odo actually got past Young, but that's besides the point. 17.4 for Bodefer, 19.1 from Diaz. So Diaz will have the shortest stop, followed by Bodefer, and those two are actually just battling there. Diaz just got through, and they'll work together, you would imagine, for some common interest. The next shortest will be Bodefer, will get right back into the mix. Sanders will have a very short stop. Odo and Young are doing the same strategy effectively in second and third.
Yeah, we have to bring up the S-word strategy. It's so important in these Radical Americas races. This format a little bit different than what we had during the 2024 season, where we had a 15-minute long sprint followed by a 45-minute long feature race. No, we're putting those two distances together. 60 minutes of racing action, 2 pit stops that these drivers have to take, and can make a huge difference in terms of how these races can shake out. And it's also good to see the different strategies that these drivers look to try and implement. Some drivers going for the short fill in the first stop and then having to pay for it in the second. Others looking to do that flip. I believe Graham Sanders is one of those drivers looking to do that short first stop and then a long second one. He finds himself in clean air as Gregory Castillo going to find himself in the barrier.
That's why he's had such a long pit stop. And he's having a very long pit stop. So that mistake down at Canada Corner for him. So the group for second and third and fourth and fifth will work together here. We'll get the interval gap up for you because it's all about those groups now on the circuit rather than the battles themselves. Young is not going to be trying to pass Odo here. He's in fact just going to be encouraging him to go a bit quicker. Same goes for Bodefer on the back of Ubaldo Diaz in fourth place. So there may not be a lot of racing in the mid part of this one, but there is going to be a lot of interest and a lot of strategy. You may have noticed on that previous graphic, by the way, that Jose Gonzalez, it says, has not made a pit stop. That is a glitch in the software. Not sure where that has come about, but Gonzalez did make a pit stop, and I would say it was towards the longer side, actually, because he's 12 seconds off the lead now suddenly. I would actually say it's probably close towards 20 seconds, a bit like what Diego Zuccarelli has done. But I wouldn't imagine Jose Gonzalez particularly worried about his pit stop length or indeed what anybody else has done, because he's got such a big lead in the AM class.
Yeah, he has a very big lead. That gap has continued to stay around the same window, about 5 seconds currently. So not entirely sure if it was a matter of Jose Gonzalez having a slow stop or Graham Sanders just having that quick run through the pits that he did. Either way, though, Gonzalez still finding himself in the race lead in the AM category. As we go on to RaceSpotTV split screen, we're looking at the battle for second between Ryan Odo and Aiden Young, and also looking at the battle for fourth between Ubaldo Diaz and John Bodefer. Bodefer in that number 67 car. He's been quick thus far this season and has also been rather impressive in some of those Friday official races as well. Ryan Odo, you see him occasionally in those Friday top split races, and we're going to see him a lot in this America's Championship. Seeing two very similar race drivers, and considering some slight session issues before this broadcast started, we had a chance to dip down into a small little lounge area that these drivers were having a chat with before then. And I will note that Ryan Odo and Aiden Young were talking to each other quite a lot. I think these two have a mutual amount of respect for each other. Ryan Odo and Young, both very talented racers behind the wheel of these SR10s and looking to prove their skills as they're going to start to flare up for those battles.
I mean, even if they didn't, they would pretend for the next 20 minutes because they've got that common interest. But yeah, it does seem that there is that respect there. It's worth noting as well that we didn't actually get to see these two together very long in the first round at the North side. It's worth reminding everyone that Aiden Young dropped down really dramatically and sort of drastically as well, because he took tyres at the first pit stop. He thought you could take tyres and and do fuel at the same time in the radicals. You can't. I think that should be a rule in every car, by the way, but whatever. That put him out the race, effectively, out of the running. And Young on the day finished in 6th place behind Graham Sanders, Lucas Vieira as well, who's unfortunately not here today. So it's good to see Young actually up towards the front, and now he's actually gone past Ryan Odo. I'm sure that was just a bit of a coordinated move. A bit less coordinated back here between Krasic and John Benlid, but there's Ed Young into 2nd place.
Yeah, and Young getting that move done on Ryan Oda. This is a heads-up fight between these two, but they don't... They need to realize that as it stands currently, they're not going to be able to catch up to Graham Sanders, but what they can't afford to do is battle too hard and cause themselves to drop down like a rock. You can see the side-by-side racing that flared up that allowed In Young to take the race lead. I think it was going a little bit deep on exit for Odo that tripped him up a little bit, but the point that I was going to raise is that they need to realize that They need to not lose track of Graham Sanders in the 100 car. Otherwise, they're going to be in a world of trouble come time for the rest of this race.
If we presume that because he had a 5-second shorter pit stop first time round, he'll have 5 seconds longer next time, it's obviously never that simple, but let's just make it simple for the sake of our brains. He would come out right in the middle of these two, but obviously these two groups are going to sort of mix apart. So at the moment, Sanders would be behind Young and Odo, but watch the lap times round this time round. Graham Sanders did a 58.9. The other two, 59.4, 59.8 from Odo. That mistake in towards turn 5 from Odo was pretty costly for the drivers in 2nd and 3rd. It's allowed Sanders to get further away. It's allowed 4th and 5th, Diaz and Butterford to get a lot closer.
Now, just going to raise that, talking about 4th and 5th of Diaz and Bodefer. If we end up seeing a fight between In Young and Ryan Odo really start to heat up, we're going to see that battle turn from not a 2-2, more so into a 4-car brawl. I can't really rule it out, if I'm being completely honest. In Young, Ryan Odo, very quick, very confident in their abilities in these race cars. And another thing to talk about as well, considering we got two very confident drivers, they're going to be going for all that glory. I don't think it's wrong for me to say that those two are the ones that we need to talk about in terms of the battle for the net lead of this race as a result of that strategy call from Graham Sanders that has allowed him to jump in front of these racers. If you're looking at this battle with In Young and Ryan Odo, you need to realize that these two very quick drivers, very confident, both gunning for that championship and both gunning for a race win. Odo looking at 2 for 2 to kick this season off. In Young looking to redeem himself after that slightly disappointing run at the Nordschleife.
I don't know about you, but watching this at the moment, I'm seeing Obodo Diaz coming out with a bit of a lead right now. If the final pit stops were to happen right now, I think Diaz could come out with quite a big lead. He's going to have a 4-second shorter pit stop compared to the two right in front. You know, he's only got 1.7 seconds to make up right now. We already know that Sanders is going to drop behind these two. Butterford's pit stop is also going to be longer than Diaz, and they're right together right now. So I don't see a situation in which Diaz actually comes out without the lead right now. And even on top of that, I don't see a situation in which he comes out with more than a second's worth of, or less than a second's worth of a lead as well, as the two in front just exchange places. That's Odo and Young. Can they work out a way to exchange this position, 2nd and 3rd, and also go quicker? Can they work out a way to sort of slingshot like you would see it, I don't know, in IndyCar racing at a super speedways type circuit? Can they do that to go a bit quicker than everybody else, or is it just going to slow them down?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. It's the sort of maneuver you'd see in the tandem drafting era of NASCAR back in the early 2010s when these drivers would break away into a 2-car pack and then just swap around to make sure they didn't overheat. That's kind of what we're seeing between these two. Odo leading for a little bit, then Aiden Young leading this pack for a little bit. Just going tit for tat, trying to figure out what works the best for them, trying to pull that gap between themselves and Ubaldo Diaz, which is going to be super, super important. As much as this is a high-stakes, high-pressure battle, throw 2 more cars in the midst of all of this, doubly so considering that Ubaldo Diaz is looking to retake the lead of this race after spending a massive chunk of the first stint in the lead. And John Bodefer as well, who had that unfortunate incident hang down into the pit entry. It's going to cause this battle to really get intense if it turns into a 4-car battle. So I think that's part of the reason why Odo and Young may be signing a temporary truce and working together for now. Keyword being for now.
It will just be for now, but it will kick off again a bit later on. No surprise that in this midpoint of the race it's going to be like this, and it could well be like this just on the exit of the pit stop phase as well, to be fair. You know that there could be some gaps to close, especially to Diaz, who's looking really good right now for a pretty big lead. And so if that is the case, then these two will be in tandem trying to catch up to the leader. But at the moment, they're not even catching Graham Sanders very quickly. Last time round before this one, they were not even any quicker. What about this time round? As after they exchanged those positions, they were quicker. So 58.3 from Odo. Now, do they change positions again? No. Despite the fact it did work last time, they're not doing it again.
And as that battle is going on for what would be one of the net podium spots in this race currently, I'm keeping my eyes on the bottom of the screen, and this battle flaring up between Charles Krasik and John Benelid. That nearly ended in Tiertang off into turn number 5 not terribly long ago. Let's see how it works out heading down into turn number 1. Krasik licking the stamp and setting it. Getting that move done on Krasik was John Benelid. My apologies there, the number 8 car. Getting that move done. That is for P8 overall, P2 of the AM category, which is still being led by Jose Gonzalez. Found himself with a rather sizable cushion at the front of that AM class. However, those podium spots still pay out on some points, of these drivers looking to prove that right now. Side by side through Marine Sweep down into the heavy braking zone of turn number 5. Krasik going to muscle his way back past and slip into 8th.
Yep, second place in the AM class, but 8th place overall. Just in behind, you see Chris Reagan in the white car just closing in as well from 10th place. Colby Book as well in 11th, not that far away. So the AM class is going to be an interesting one to just take a peek at here in the middle point in the race while we're waiting for those pro pit stops to happen, because they've very much given up, I think, on catching Jose Gonzalez, and you can absolutely see why. They are going to battle between themselves by the looks of things, in the way that these guys just aren't going to. The gap really closing now between Diaz and these two, but also between Sanders and these two as well. So it's all just concertinaing together now. Gap tips below 4 seconds for the first time, but a small mistake from Odo there. Slightly wide through the penultimate corner.
Yeah, and a moment like that coming out of turn number 13A, that's going to create a rather wild ride. You got some pretty bad bumps and some pretty bad dirt on the outside of a corner like that. And in these SR10s, you have a small little bit of undulation. You're going to find yourself in a world of trouble. Talk about riding a bull. Holy cow. Still nose to tail heading down into turn number 1. Ryan Odo Young still trying to work together, and all that gap has ballooned out a little bit between Sanders and Odo. Still within that 4-second window, so Graham Sanders likely going to dip back behind these drivers when we do have that final run into the pits, which these drivers, as much as they are definitely preoccupied with some of the battles out there on the racetrack, they are definitely thinking about how to execute that final run through pit lane.
Now they're going towards turn 5, and again, single file. Probably a bit of... Oh, spin! Odo with a solo mistake! Oh, that's so costly for the race winner from the Nordschleife. That is Ryan Odo going for a spin at turn 5, and surely his hopes even of a podium this afternoon have gone up in smoke there.
Yeah, that could have ended in disaster for Diaz and Bodafer. They arrived at the scene of that incident. I think it was a matter of feet between themselves and the spun and stopped car of Ryan Odo. A costly mistake for the driver of the number 15 car. May need to load up a replay to figure out what exactly went wrong for him off through turn number 5. Was there a little bit of contact? I'm not sure if there was. I think Odo just looped it on his own. That is a heart-wrenching mistake for the driver of the number 15 car. Got the season kicked off in brilliant fashion with a commanding win at the Nordschleife, but clearly not going to be the case here at Road America after that mistake. And yeah, it was all by himself. Didn't get too upset with that inside curve, and look at that. That could have ended in tears on the regional.
Could have, but they get away with it. Diaz and Butterfield there just skip past, and Ryan Odo surely is consign himself to a 5th place finish here. Young is going to now struggle to stay away from Diaz. All of a sudden, Graham Sanders is going to be brought right into this. But it looks like it's going to be brought right into a battle for 2nd place rather than anything more here in this latter part of the race. On board with Butterfield towards turn number 1, and nothing doing that time round. I'm enjoying, by the way, someone called Double Delta's YouTube comments, just telling these drivers the blindingly obvious, like Ryan Odo, that wasn't the fastest way through turn 5, that last lap. Which is, well, it's true. And for Gregory Costello, that Canada corner indeed does go to the right. I've been having a chuckle to myself. But It's not what Rhino will be wanting to hear at the moment. He's now 3 seconds behind where it matters in the pro class. This is for second in AM, and it's only getting into a bigger group now because Chris Reagan has caught Krasic and Benlin for that second place, and they are fighting as if there is no point in doing anything else, which I suppose there isn't really. They've all done the same length pit stops. There's not anybody else really to worry about here. There's not anybody who's done longer stops than them. They're not going to catch the leader, and so they're just fighting out between themselves anyway. Close in towards turn 5, and Charles Krasic hangs on to 8th this time round.
And I'm actually going to give credit where credit is due to Double Delta in the YouTube chat, letting us know that Canada Corner is a right-hander. I'm dyslexic, so sometimes I will usually get them mixed up. So thank you very much, Double Delta, for that precise information. I will have to have that noted on my mic stand here in my broadcast booth as we see a moan for Gregory Castillo in the 12 car. He's had a brutal race here at Road America. A spin heading through turn 14. He's running all the way down in 18th as it stands presently. Not a good day in the world of Castillo, but back at the front of the field in the AM category, these drivers battling for 8th and 9th overall, P2 and P3 in the AM class. And look at Chris Reagan, he's within striking distance too, side by side with Krasic and Benlin as Graham Sanders has come into the pits.
Yeah, he's got to make an early stop, of course, because he didn't put very much fuel in the first place. So just half an hour to go, and that final pit stop will be on his way. Now, the problem is going to be, if he comes out in a battle like that, his race will absolutely be over. He'll be on heavier fuel anyway, so he's going to have a hard time staying with these guys in the first place. But if he comes out in a group like that, it's going to be very, very tricky indeed. Sanders just pulls into his box, just angling nicely so that he can get that quick exit. The pit stop will go well over 10 seconds, you would think, as the battle for second does indeed go past. But for Sanders, at least, he's not come out directly behind. That would have been the big worry for them, as Aiden Young is now caught. Diaz is on the back of them. Luke Crowley's already gloating that he called this half an hour ago. And Obodo Diaz in such a strong position at the front of this race now.
Yeah, the fight is very much so on between these racers, and as we could just barely see him in the back, a shot. Ryan Odo is going to be a man on a mission to bring himself back into this battle. It's damage control at the present moment, but for Aiden Young, Ubaldo Diaz, and John Bodefer, there's so many different permutations that are running in their heads about how they may shake out at the end of this race. I think the driver that I'm probably going to be keeping my eyes on in the midst of all of this is John Bodefer. Bit of an unknown quantity in the number 67 machine. Let's see how it's going to shake out. He's been rather patient in this race up to this point. Outside that bit of contact on pit entry, he's been a very clean driver thus far as well. That 67, he's just quietly lurking in the background, but he's maybe just there waiting, strategizing, and trying to figure out when to pounce.
Derek Coe drops behind Cedric Ion, meanwhile, for 11th place, so may have been a mistake. Graham Sanders is not that far behind all those guys, so you'll be hoping that they pit in rather soon, but I'm afraid he's not going to be granted that. Derek Coe might not be that far away from a pit stop, neither will Jared Gregory, but it's the others that he's really got to worry about, who have been on quite long opening stops. Now Diaz is in behind Young. To be honest, if I was Young, I would let Diaz through and start fuel saving to the absolute maximum here, because he doesn't need to worry about Butterfield particularly. Diaz has got to just worry about his speed rather than his fuel load, and so I don't really see any point for Aiden Young leading the field around. You might as well tuck in and save fuel.
Yeah, I think that may be a smart call for these racers. Just kind of, I wouldn't say cruise to the end of this second stint, but play the long game. That is so important. It's rather easy to get caught up in the red mist in battles like this, but taking a bit more of a methodical approach can make a huge difference. We've seen it in the past in this series, and I'm sure you can attest to this. It's probably happened in the European Championship thus far this season as well. A driver taking a bit more of a methodical approach compared to some of his competitors, and reaping the rewards as a result.
This is Krasic again in towards the turn 5. Benlin again on the inside line, looking for 7th place as it is now. And that is 2nd place in the class. A good move down the inside. Well, has he pulled it up in time? Just about, with a bit of gravel kicked up as well. He goes through. So Krasic's next, and then Chris Reagan, who we go aboard with here as he watches on from that position. Still a long time until these guys pit, and you'd imagine they'll still be out on the circuit when Sanders catches them. He'll be hoping that he doesn't catch them, but it could well be detrimental to their race. Next pit stops, by the way, are going to be expected from Jarrett Coe, probably. Adrian Fernandez will be in pretty soon. But apart from that, Aidan Young and Ryan Odo, of course, who are on the same strategy as we talked about earlier on.
And still waiting for these drivers at the front of the field to make that call to come into the pits. Saw not terribly long ago the 1-point race leader of Graham Sanders in the 100 machine make that call to pit. Of course, he had that different strategy that will break it up a teeny tiny bit at the front of the field with these drivers that will be coming into the pits practically at the same time. They're all running line astern, taking a rather patient approach to this stage of the race. I'm really liking this from all of these drivers. They're not forcing the issue on each other. They're not going for ridiculous sense. I think they realize that the dumbest thing they can do for themselves after 35 minutes of racing action is really start to battle 25 minutes away from the checkered flag. These drivers taking a methodical approach, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing.
It is a good opening to this race. 2/3 gone, pretty much, and Diaz going for the lead here. Oh, some would say he doesn't really need to, but he's trying to stamp his authority all over this race right now with 25 to go. Here he goes on the inside at turn 6, and Young is just going to back out, is he? No! Oh, Diaz pushes him wide. That was close, and Young might well just fire it back down the inside at turn 8 here to try and get in the way. Diaz going to try and not make sure that happens, and Young doesn't go for the outside because he knows what's going to happen. It is so hard to go around the outside of Diaz, and Young there experienced his full force as he tried to go around the outside of turn 6.
Yeah, these drivers play me like a fiddle, right as I was saying. I like what these drivers are doing, being a bit more methodical. Then they decide to battle, heading off into turn number 5. But prove me wrong is Ubaldo Diaz trying to get that move, and considering he opened up that floodgates, it's worn now. Aidan Young trying to get that move done into Canada corner, clears them before they even think about getting into the braking zone. I've mentioned so many times that the draft in these SR10s is strong. That got put on full display a couple of moments ago. Aidan Young with a massive head of speed, heading down through Kettle Bottoms into Canada corner to retake the race lead.
He might have to come in this time, Young, or is it we next time or the time after? It's certainly soon now for Young. He won't have very much fuel left, and neither will Ryan Odo here in 4th place. He's not got the draft, of course, but he will be benefiting from this. And another driver benefiting from all this, by the way, is Graham Sanders, as they continue to fight here. It doesn't really matter for Diaz. He's still going to be in the lead, and he's going around the outside of turn 1. A great overtake from him here in the opening corner of this racetrack. He takes the lead again. Young's on his outside, but he's not going to go all the way round there. He's just trying to compromise Diaz's run through turn 3 so that he can get the run onto the straight himself here. And he's almost up behind him too quickly as he gets in behind now. Is he going to push him maybe in towards turn 5? Well, yes, actually. He's not going to go for the move unless it's going to be a late one from Aidan Young. And no, it won't be. So Diaz now does lead, and Young goes for sticking behind. But it's another great move, this time for Diaz in towards turn 1.
Now we're going to take a look at this. Those drivers fanning out down into turn number 1. Diaz sweeping around the outside. That is a beautiful move from the driver of the 108 car. Got it done with authority right at the very beginning of this lap. Diaz in that 108 machine. Luke Crowley picked him as a favorite early on, and Luke Crowley, being an SR10 driver himself, he knows who's quick and who isn't. He called a shot with Diaz, and Diaz looking to prove him right. He has been a man on a mission here at Road America.
There's Gregory Castillo. He's got a black flag, I think, for the incident limit, actually. We know that he's been involved in quite a lot of incidents so far. Jose Gonzalez is dropping down the field as well right now, by the way. He looks like he may have been off somewhere, but we'll get back to that later. Roberto Diaz holds on to the lead again here. Surely this pit stop can't be far away from Young, although I would have thought if he was coming in this time, he would have went and got ahead that time in towards Canada corner, because there's no point following Diaz through here. You might as well take the extra car length. But anyway, he does come in anyway, so I can't really explain why he didn't bother even going for that there. Oh, and he's got a lap car in front of him. This race is not very full of fortune, I'm afraid, for Aidan Young. He's got caught behind a lap car on the way into pit entry now.
And that right there, I believe, was a 963 of Luis Pires, so that's not going to help him out at all. But let's see how it's going to work out for Young and Oda. They're coming into the pits together. These two young Americans were trading blows early on. They're now going to be back vacuum sealed together now into the pits. Diaz and Botifer staying out for another lap. They were the ones that we were kind of thinking would have a little bit more gas to stretch their legs out a teeny tiny bit more. These drivers will still have to deal with the lapped car of Pires. This isn't going to work out at all for these drivers. I think Oda may have gotten a black flag.
No wonder he was so close to Young. He was speeding on pit lane. That's got to have been it for Ryan Odo. His pit stop is going to last another half a minute as Aiden Young comes out, by the way. Graham Sanders is 2 seconds in front, and all of a sudden, number 100's got a big chance here, even with Alberto Diaz's short pit stop still to come. Does that maybe put him in the game here, Graham Sanders, for this race lead?
He may find himself in the catbird seat. Let's keep an eye on the driver of the 100 car. Didn't really talk about him too much in terms of being a serious contender for this race win, but I think he was just driving his own patient and calm race at the front, not having to worry about anybody. Pretty much in the entire time that he was in that race lead. I mean, we talked about him a little bit, but I'm not sure if we had our cameras on him at all. He was just calm, cool, and collected at the front of the field, putting the laps away. And when it comes to a race like this, where the strategy and being in the right place at the wrong time can absolutely make or break your race. Looking good for the driver of the 100 car. Let's see though at the front of the field, Diaz and Botifer, they're staying out for yet another lap. The 108 car still in the race lead. Botifer within striking distance as Zuccarelli and Gonzalez just swapped for the final podium spot.
I think Botifer is going to be able to go this one more, and then Diaz will be able to go one or two further on from that as well before the pit stops are complete in the pro class here this afternoon. But what a run from Graham Sanders. He's now in clean air as well. He will be really benefiting from this. These two leaders, by the way, last time 58.2 and 58.0, pretty quick, and that is going to be struggled to be matched by Graham Sanders. That's where the problem's going to be for number 100. He's just not going to be able to go as quick because he's got a higher fuel load all in all, but his teammate could get in the way. Botifer's not going to win this race himself, I don't think, but he could very much slow down Diaz, which would help his teammate Graham Sanders.
That can make a huge difference in terms of how this race is going to shake out. It's going to be a fun one right to the line. Got 18 and a half minutes of racing action left to go. And really, as it stands currently, I don't think we really know who's going to be in contention and who isn't, as it was contact between Diego Zuccarelli and Jose Gonzalez heading down into turn number 8. A small little tap going to send Gonzalez around. He was the 1-point race leader in the AM category. I believe he's still going to hold on to that, but that's not going to help out his cause.
No, it certainly won't. People were suggesting in YouTube, by the way, that Botifer has been saving so much fuel behind Diaz and the rest of them that he might actually be in the game here. And maybe you're right. We'll find out in a few moments. But the fact that he's not getting in the way and purely almost sacrificing himself for Sanders suggests that you might be right. There's Gregory Castillo continuing to have a bit of a miserable afternoon. He is now a lap down on the next car, never mind the leader. And he's down in 18th place for good, I would say, in this race. Through the final corner then for Diaz and Botifer. I thought the geodesic driver would have to pit this time round. Will he have to? Yes, but so does Diaz. So that is a great effort of fuel saving from the geodesic driver. These two match now as they come in. Oh, don't tell me you hit him again there. I hope not. I hope we get a good race between these two on pit lane. And look at that, they're super close as they run down the pit apron now. And he's pulling alongside here. Botifer's making an overtake in the pit lane almost here. Oh,
look at him shifting. Trying to do that strategy of shifting gears up, down, up, down, up, down, going from first to second to second to third, second to third. It's working out well for Botifer. That small little bit of gaining can help him out a lot in this race. Let's take a look at a replay of this pit entry for John Botifer. Dropping the anchors. Look at that. Oh, that could have ended in tears. He was so close to not only hitting the back of Diaz's car, he nearly hit the end of the concrete barrier. And if that was the case, that could have been a disaster. He's not going to come out with the lead. Diaz going to hold on to it, but Botifer just did himself a whole lot of favors. Graham Sanders going to be classed in third at the moment, with Aiden Young slotted in P4.
Wow, it is John Buttafor who's going to put up the most resistance now to Alberto Diaz. Instead of getting loud, as all the others have been trying to stay away from Alberto Diaz in this race, he's taken the quiet strategy. Camp out towards the back end of the group, camp out behind Diaz all day long, and you'll be able to save the fuel necessary to get yourself in the game. And suddenly, the shackles are off. But he's going to go for this. In towards turn 5. He back out for now. 16 minutes to go, though. He's got a long time to figure out how he's going to get past the race leader.
He is back in the game now. What did I say earlier on about John Buttafor being the one hiding in the shadows, maybe have some sort of tricks up his sleeve? I think that pit strategy that he had, not even the strategy of in terms of when he came into the pits, but him banging up the gears. I've occasionally done that, just bored out of my mind driving on iRacing, shifting up the gears, getting a little bit of incremental speed gain. Didn't pick up a penalty and all that, but he could clearly see it helped him out a lot compared to compared to Ubaldo Diaz. So Buttafor making up those small little gains. He's now in the catbird seat to try and challenge Diaz for this race win, and he has 15 and a half minutes to try and get the job done.
He's got time on his side, a quarter of this race still to go, and he's got a motivation to not battle just yet because Sanders and Young are not that far away. Ranodo's no longer a factor here. He's down to 10th place, by the way, and so we'll see him lose the championship lead at the end of the day, and probably no matter which way this battle goes, Diaz is going to take the championship lead. But if Buttafor can win the race, then he might well take it. Not that it really matters after round number 2. Over the start line go the two leaders again. On board with Aiden Young, meanwhile, down the bottom of your screen. Surely he's going to get past Sanders here in towards turn 1. Butterfor's not going to get past Diaz, and Young doesn't go for it on Sanders yet. So I'm not sure how these two actually intend to catch the two leaders, but they're doing it by not fighting for now.
Yeah, they're holding their own currently, not wanting to get involved in any sort of drama. And really, if they start to battle hard, the chances of them trying to battle for that race win are going to dip ever farther down than they already are. Knowing my luck, though, I probably just think so. We're going to see these drivers go side by side, heading off into turn number 5 in a couple of moments' time. They're not doing it for the race lead. Let's see if they do it for the final podium spot. Survey says they will not. Graham Sanders holding on to 3rd at the moment in the 100 car. Aiden Young, though, as much as he's running in 4th, and he's probably going to look to try and get that podium and hopefully a little bit more if lightning can strike in his bottle. Aiden Young has been rather impressive this season, despite the pit stop chicanery that didn't really help him out at all at the Nürburgring for the opening race of the season, and him running in 4th at the moment here at Road America. He has been incredibly impressive thus far.
Does very much suggest so far that these guys are going to leave it till late, but how late are they going to leave it here? How much sort of research, for want of a better word, is Buttafor going to do here about where to make the move? Is it going to be into the kind of corner braking zone for the final lap? Are you going to risk leaving it that late? Or are we going to see an earlier move and a defence, if you like, on the last lap? It's so difficult. It's one of those circuits where overtaking and making the overtake's not the difficult part. It's actually timing the overtake and when is the right moment to do it, because actually achieving the pass is not the hard bit. It's staying ahead afterwards that is the difficulty.
That is such a good point that he raised there, Ewan, because around a racetrack like this, let's say you go for the move heading off into turn number 1. Okay, big deal. That driver's probably going to get back at you heading through into turn at number 5, and then maybe have a shot of getting back by them into Canada corner right towards the end of this race. And who knows, we could see a photo finish. We saw that 1 season ago here in the Radical Americas Championship at this very racetrack. I can't rule it out. I don't think these drivers can rule it out. It is not out of the question at all. So in terms of timing the move, trying to figure out where you should go for it, that's super important. If it were me, albeit very good reason why I'm behind a microphone instead of behind the wheel, I would probably go for it hang off into turn number 5. As much as we saw that work for Christoph Flip on Andre Castro during that Friday 2100 GMT official top split race broadcast here on RaceSpotTV a couple of days ago, that was a bit of a 1 in a million shot, if I'm being completely honest. It was a gutsy move from Christoph Flip in the dying breaths of that race, hang down into Canada corner. Maybe it's just me having the mindset of an old man, but I would not want to have that stress of having to wait for only a few more corners left to go in this hour-long race to get the move done.
I mean, the amount of times I've seen somebody camping out behind the leader, waiting for the last lap, and then messing it up on the last lap, I would be very nervous about it as well. Maybe it's just because I've watched too many races like that, and these drivers will not have had that same experience, and they may have been in some situations themselves where they actually will have succeeded in a fight like that. But for the moment, I don't really see... I think with a few laps to go, it would be okay to be in. To be honest, they're continuing to extend the lead to the two on the bottom of your screen, so maybe the start of this battle is going to be brought forward slightly by John Butterfoot. 6 laps to go as we cross the line this time round. How long further is he going to wait here as the gap continues to increase to Sanders and Young behind?
And one thing I want to raise that we see every single lap coming out of turn number 14 from your race leader of Ubaldo Diaz is he's taking a very aggressive line to try and break that draft. Obviously, the draft's super important in these SR10s, and I think Ubaldo Diaz, certainly very fast driver in this series. You can imagine that he knows how powerful the draft is in these race cars. I've been looking at that. I'm like, oh, is he coming down pit lane? Does he have some sort of penalty? No, he's just trying to weave coming out of turn 14 to break that draft to John Bodefer's race car. About a half a second between those two cars, 4.5 tenths to be a bit more precise. But Diaz clearly seeing the benefit of the weave heading down the straightaways here at this racetrack. I want to be a little bit careful about that. This series does have stewarding, not live stewarding, but it is post-race stewarding that these drivers may pick up some penalties for. So you don't want to weave around these straightaways like an absolute madman, but you do want to make sure that that driver behind you gets as little benefit from that draft as possible.
You certainly do, as Jarrett Coe has to come in for a black flag. That's a shame for him. He'll drop now down to 15th place behind Adrian Fernandez, who had to take his fast repair earlier on in the race. I want to get your reaction a little bit to what Luke Crowley just said in the YouTube chat about not leaving it for Canada corner because it's too easy to defend. Now, maybe we'll have some slight recency bias on this, but we did watch a race only on Friday where the last lap pass was made into Canada corner. It was very well done on the inside, I've got to say, and it wasn't John Butterfield, admittedly. He was 8 seconds further down the road in 5th that night, but it is possible into that corner, and you know, just because there is going to be a leader out of turn 5 in this last lap here, don't rule it out at all here that this lead can change in the final sector at all. It's still good for racing, this final sector at Road America.
I mean, nothing to discredit the move that Christoph Lipp did to grab the win in that Friday official race, but it was, as I said a couple of moments ago, it was a 1 in a million move, if I'm being so real. First move I've really seen like that in my entire time doing iRacing broadcasts, which dates back to over 2 years at this point. It was a good move, don't get me wrong. It was absolutely fantastic. But the way that I see that is, if you want to base the end of this race and your strategy for the end of this race off of a move in the Friday official race under completely different circumstances in a race far shorter than this, it's like taking life advice from a lotto winner who tells you to liquidate all your assets and just buy lottery tickets.
Well, I suppose so. I mean, you're saying it's a lottery. Crowley says it's at least a coin flip. So, you know, I know which chances I'd fancy a bit more of. But there you go. I certainly get what you're all saying about it being a risk at the end of a long race. And, you know, I do get that. But just because there is, as I say, going to be a leader out of turn 5, it's absolutely not going to be over. There's going to be a big run towards Canada corner. The other thing is, as well, for John Butterford, to be fair, as far as leaving it even that late goes, and I'm not suggesting he should leave it that late, but look at his gap out the kink here. This is happening lap after lap here. Just look at that through the top of your screen. And imagine this is the last lap here. I mean, it would have to be an almighty lunge from this distance back. He's going to get just within 3 tenths, quarter of a second, but he's not close enough. His run actually out of the carousel to actually do what Lipp did 2 days ago, it's just not good enough, I don't think, at the moment.
And that's one thing that John Bodefer is certainly evaluating in that number 67 car. How is the run coming out of the carousel? How does he feel heading into the braking zone into Canada corner? There's a lot of permutations that he is certainly running through his mind. He's gonna have to hope for a small little tripper from Diaz if he doesn't have any more speed to be had heading through the back half of the circuit, all through the woods. I'm still going to think that Bodefer, even if even if he's not comfortable in the move, he's still going to maybe try and go for it. I mean, with about a 4-second gap back to Aiden Young in third, he can afford to risk it a little bit. I mean, granted, you're not going to go for a kamikaze dive, but he can afford to maybe go for a bit of a dive heading down into turn at number 12. Granted, if he locks up on the front tire, big deal, you're on the last lap. That's not going to hurt you too bad. If he runs a little bit wide, hey, just rejoin the racetrack before Aiden Young overtakes you. Bodefer, I'm sure that in that 67 car, he is running everything through his mind, trying to figure out exactly how he can go about that. It's like, you ever see a video of like a MotoGP rider kind of visualizing the course and moving their body with the flow of the circuit as they try and visualize it in their own mind, despite the fact they're not even on the bike and not even out there on the track, despite the fact it may be sim racing? Bodefer, I'm sure, is probably thinking in his mind right now, how will that final lap go? Think of all the scenarios and think of how to counter them all.
Jose Gonzalez on the bottom of your screen, by the way, the AM leader, currently just in behind Diego Zuccarelli. They'll continue their fight away for 5th position. I wonder what Obado Diaz is thinking in this situation as well. 3 laps to go, knowing that leading going on to the last lap might not be the best place to be. Maybe he thinks it is the best place to be and defend from the front. But I wonder what he can even do here from the front in terms of defending, because as we've said before, it is not one of those circuits where it is easy to defend.
Yeah, you kind of see 2 different ends of the coin when it comes to defending around this racetrack. As much as you have those long, flat-out blasts, it's a little bit of a narrow track. Road America, it is an old school circuit in its construction. It's an absolutely wonderful ride in the world of racing, synonymous with American sports car racing. Of course, I host the SCCA runoffs nowadays as well. It's a fun track. It's easy to defend, yeah, it's also hard to defend as well. With these draft-heavy SR10s, there comes a certain run where there's nothing you can do to try and prevent the inevitable, but at the same time, if that is a little bit kind of iffy on the run that your competitor has on you, you can position your car exactly where you want, considering the narrow nature of this circuit at many points of it. Turn 5 being one of those points. We kind of raised this earlier on when Ryan Odo was involved in all those battles. Speaking of, he finds himself all the way down in 10th. Not a good race for him at all in the number 15 machine. He's going to look to try and dust himself off for the next round of this championship. But we raised it talking about how it's nearly impossible to go 3 wide hang down into turn number 5 around here. And considering that's one of the premier overtaking opportunities, shows you that this track is narrow. It's a national park of speed, and clearly some of the other roads around here feel like it's a national park.
Yeah, like a trail through a forest or something. It's quite so narrow at some stages. Just thankfully it's tarmacked. Just under 4 minutes to go, and some of the battles going on further down, by the way, have been very entertaining. We've been focusing on the leaders, obviously, but this for second in the AM class has been going on for a while. It's just Benlid and Reagan now. Kresic is a long way behind in 11th place now. His last pit stop was 21 seconds, which is quite a long stop compared to what the others had for whatever reason, so he's lost about 10 seconds. It's down to these 2 to fight for the podium.
And it's going to be a heads-up fight between these racers. It's some good battling going on up and down this racetrack. One thing to always raise about these Radical SR10 races, whether it be here for the Americas Championship or the European Championship, even after 60 minutes of racing action, well, we're close enough to it, 57 minutes of racing action, you get the point anyways, that it is impressive that these drivers are still vacuum sealed together, giving us good battles to talk about up and down the grid. It may not be a battle for the lead in AM, but still a battle for the podium. We actually have the leader of the AM class still involved in that battle with himself and Diego Zuccarelli. The 21 and 26 cars have been itchy and scratchy ever since the drop of the green flag. But getting back to the point I was raising, incredible skills and incredible level of talent in this series. The fact they're all so close together after such long of a race.
Out of the final corner, Benlid is going to be on the defensive again. Now then, John Butterfoot has seen another 2 decent chances go by, and he's decided to stay behind. This is the penultimate lap. They'll be seeing the white flag next time round. Butterfoot very much putting his eggs all in the last lap basket. Is the move, though, going to come down at turn 1, or is it going to be at turn 5? And is he going to be able to make it at all?
That is the real question. Who's going to come out smelling like a rose in all of this, and who's going to come out smelling like some Some congratulatory champagne. A podium, still a podium, but that winner champagne tastes a slightly bit more sweet. And let's see who's going to be the one tasting it at the end of all this. Diaz having a little bit of a weave on, heading out of carousel into turn number 11. About 3.5 tenths of a second between those two drivers coming out of the kink. You see that gap closing in this flat out blast. Bodefer, I wonder if he's been saving up his stuff towards the end of this race. Here coming to the white flag this time by, as Bodefer saved up the rubber in that race car to be able to mount a challenge on Ubaldo Diaz. This is going to be close either way.
Here we go. White flag in hand. One more lap to go. Round 2 of the Radical Sim Racing Americas Championship at Road America is going to come down to this. Ubaldo Diaz versus John Bodefer for the second race win of the season. They were both on the podium at the Nordschleife 3 weeks ago, and all of a sudden they're fighting over podium places again themselves here. The top step this time. Further behind, Young and Sanders are going to go side by side immediately for third place. Young at least holds on through turn number 1 here. Sanders are giving him a hard time again towards turn 5, as his teammate is going to do for the lead. Is this run good enough from John Bodefer? He's not been that close in the past. He's been hovering 3 and 4 tenths behind. Is that close enough here on the way towards turn 5, or is he going to have to lead this very late? Ubaldo Diaz goes to the inside. He's now going to have to go around the outside, the genetic driver. Diaz breaks really late on the inside line. Can Bodefer get an exit maybe? He can't. Diaz defends again. Bodefer's going to have a look, but no. Ubaldo Diaz leads going into the middle sector.
And this is going to be the most important sector of this race as Andy Young, Graham Sanders continue to battle for the final spot on the overall podium. Diaz is going to hope that Bodefer used up his stuff in the first half of this lap. This run through the carousel for the final time in this second round of the 2025 Radical Americas Championship. Going to be important in deciding how this race is going to go. Will Bodefer have a good run? Let's take a look at that gap. It's about 4 tenths of a second coming out of it. Diaz keeping the weave on. How's it going to work? Into Canada quarter for the last time.
It's one of his best runs to Bodefer, but is it enough here? Diaz is moving all over the place here. He's costing himself time in doing so, but he's got to do it to go on the defensive here. Bodefer's going to go on the outside line in towards Canada corner, and he can't go there. Diaz was never going to give him the room on the outside, and surely this is a successful defense now for Ubaldo Diaz, who got so close to race victory at the expense of Brian Odo at the Nordschleife 3 weeks ago. He's going to come out here, Road America, and win, and John Bodefer's gone off on his own here. They're both going to get a podium down the bottom of your screen. Oh my word, Sanders gets through just in behind Diaz. Ubaldo Diaz wins at Road America with Graham Sanders. Is he going to hang on to second? Oh, it's almost a dead heat. Who's going to take the second place? It's Sanders. 7 thousandths of a second ahead of Aiden Young, and in the end they'll both get a podium. John Bodefer throwed everything at that final lap. In the end, he threw himself off the road and he threw his podium away.
That is a heartbreaking mistake for John Bodefer. He was so close in that challenge into Canada corner, but heading through the last one, he throws it all away. But look at that photo finish between Graham Sanders and Aiden Young. 7 thousandths of a second between the two drivers, rounding at your podium in P2 and P3. I mentioned after 60 minutes of racing action, the fact that we still had battles was incredible. 7 thousandths of a second after 60 minutes. Holy cow, that is absolutely phenomenal. Credit where credit's due to Graham Sanders in that 100 car. He was leading this race for a brief period of time after that first run through the pits. Did not work out for him in terms of a race victory, but he worked out well for him in a P2 result. Diaz going to grab the checkered flag. He's going to be spraying that winner's champagne. Bodefer, he's going to be kicking himself after that, but Sanders and Young stealing the show.
A close finish for fifth as well, by the way, between Jose Gonzalez and Diego Zuccarelli. Only 47 thousandths between them. And that was Gonzalez taking the win in the AM class, by the way. But by a very, very small margin indeed. Well, at least he took fifth by a small margin. He'll take the AM lead by about 7.5 seconds and will extend his championship lead with it as well. Ubaldo Diaz will take the pro driver standings lead. As you have a look at that finish again, my word. There's just a vision just after they crossed the line. It does look like to the naked eye that Sanders did just have his nose in front, but 7 thousandths of a second is what we saw in the live there. And wow, what a finish. Ubaldo Diaz ends up fending off those behind to win this one by 4 seconds in the end, although that margin will flatter him on the result sheet. Graham Sanders just edges out Aiden Young for that second step on the podium, with John Butterfield throwing it away on the last lap. Jose Gonzalez finishes in 5th place, and the AM winner, ahead of Diego Zuccarelli, who he drafted past on the last lap. John Benellit and Chris Reagan join him on the podium, with Ryan Odo only finishing 9th after speeding in the pit lane second time round. 10th place went to Corey Book. Gerald Gregory was 11th, ahead of Adrian Fernandez, Cedric Oyon, Charles Kraditz and Jerick Coe rounding out those who were on the lead lap. Alfredo Terraza Souza and Luis Miguel Perez were dropped 1 lap down. Gregory Castillo had a bit of a nightmare and finished 2 laps down in the end. Let's have a chat. First of all, let's work our way from the bottom to the top in the podium, shall we? Starting with Aidan Young, who finished in 3rd tonight. Congratulations, Aidan, on another, your best result of the season. I was about to say another podium, a first podium rather, with a 3rd place, but so near to 2nd place. Tell us about that last lap with Graham.
So close. Yeah, that was a good battle with Graham. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. You know, we raced each other hard, we raced each other clean, and that's the kind of things you like to see on the racetrack, and it's definitely enjoyable from the cockpit too. You know, getting to race somebody so close like that and not having an incident. I tried to push him along at first to see if we could catch, and then we were catching, but then I think Graham realized maybe he needed a fuel save a little bit, so I was like, okay, now let me try to pull Graham along, and then I started pulling him along pretty good. We started closing the gap, and then when I looked at my fuel, I was like, I'm not gonna make the end. So then it just became okay, just try and bring the car home and into a podium finish, and see if I can't have a good battle with Graham, which ended up happening, and that was extremely fun.
It was a fun battle to watch as well, but after all, it was a few seconds behind where the leading battle, which you were a part of earlier in the race. If you look back on that race there, do you think you could have done anything else to get yourself into that leading battle rather than the one for 3rd?
Yeah, I think, you know, maybe at the beginning, maybe if I would have passed a little sooner and in the lead pack and got to the lead, maybe was in the lead when I pitted, you know, maybe I would have had a chance to get out in a little bit of clean air, then try to fuel save a little bit. But, you know, that's kind of a deal of what if, and that didn't happen. I got 3rd, and at the end of the day, still a podium's a podium, so I'm happy with that, and I'll just try and build on the momentum and see if I can't win the next one at Road Atlanta.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you there. Congratulations, Aidan, on a podium tonight, and we'll see you at Road Atlanta.
Thank you. See you boys at Road Atlanta.
Thanks very much, Aidan Young there, 3rd place here overall tonight at Road America, just behind Graham Sanders, who can now join us as well. Welcome in, Graham. Good to have you with us. I'll ask you the same question as well as what we did to Aidan. Tell us a little bit about that last lap from your perspective as you came out on the right side of that close finish.
Yeah, that was pretty nerve-wracking. Awesome racing by Aidan, really clean. I was just chatting with him. We were sitting on 13 and 14X respectively, so we could just barely afford to battle, but we couldn't really get too aggressive with it. But yeah, it was good.
How is it, by the way, to take such a significant position off a teammate at the very end of that race as well, by the way? Yeah. It's really unfortunate what happened to him at the end. I think he just locked up there in that last corner, but that would have been really awesome to possibly get a double podium, but yeah. It wasn't to be this time round. Well, congratulations on your best result of the season so far, of course. 2nd place here tonight at Road America. We'll see you in a few weeks' time at Road Atlanta.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That's Graham Sanders, who finished in 2nd place here tonight. A bit further down in the field, let's chat to Ryan Odo as well to clean up the pros before we have a chat to Gerald Gregory quickly as well. Ryan, welcome in. Good of you to speak to us, even after a difficult race for yourself. Just tell us your thoughts after that one.
Yeah, it's kind of an unfortunate race all around. Had a unfortunate spin, unfortunate pit entry, and a speeding in pit lane penalty that cost me 40 seconds. That would have, if I didn't have it, would have put me 1.5 seconds behind Aidan Young, and I would hopefully have closed up that gap and had an amazing battle with maybe him and Graham. So that would have been nice, but I think I had the pace today. I just fumbled it. There's nothing more. Hopefully next race I don't make the same mistakes.
Absolutely. What can you take forward now into the next race, knowing that this is, I don't want to call it a reality check because I don't think you'll be finishing down in the lower part of the top 10 all season by any means, but it's a very different outcome, put it that way, to round one.
Yeah, definitely very different. Round one was almost perfect besides messing up a little bit on fuel, and I could have gained a couple tenths, but yeah, I would actually say it is a reality check because it told me, hey, I'm not good enough in section A and B. I need to be better in those and more careful, and maybe next time I won't make the same mistakes and I will have a chance at fighting for one.
Well, we look forward to seeing you again at Road Atlanta. Thanks very much for coming to chat to us, Ryan, and we'll see you there.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ryan Odo, there, ninth place here this afternoon. J.R. Gregory finished just outside the top 10. A friend of the show from RaceSpotTV. Welcome in, JR. Good to have you with us as well. 11th place for you today. Of course, a nice result in the AM class as well. Tell us how you're feeling after that one.
Pretty good, man. And good to hear from you guys. I found a bunch of pace. I'm really not good at Road America and kind of made something happen in practice today and was feeling pretty good about it. And, this field is so competitive. One little error, don't know if you caught it, I went a little wide on turn 8 and lost, 5 or 10 seconds as a result, but that was enough to drop me down 3 or 4 spots, and I couldn't really get it back. Got kind of lucky at the end, came up on some guys fighting that had kind of gone through their tires. Krasik went off in Canada, and then the guy he was fighting with didn't have enough tires left to defend, and I got a few spaces at the end. But overall, it was fun. It's Road America, right? Road America on RaceSpot. Who could ask for anything more?
Absolutely. It's certainly provided the entertainment. What does this race do for you for the rest of the season as well? It's 2 top 5s as far as I'm aware in the AM class to start your season off.
Yeah, and it's I like it. It's not blinding speed that is in my corner, but it can be consistency. So I think if I get a top 5 every race for the whole season, probably have a good shot at a podium. Like I say, I'm not going to rack up a bunch of wins, but I'll do it Alon Pro style, be consistent, always kind of be lurking around in the top 5-ish. And by the end of the season, that consistency often pays off. So that's what I'm banking on.
All right, well, we look forward to seeing you at the next one. JL, thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us, and I'm sure we'll hear you on RaceSpotTV again very soon.
Very good. Cheers. Thanks, Alice.
Thanks very much. That's J.R. Gregory. Another top 5 for him tonight in the AM class. And while we've been chatting to those guys, by the way, the race winner, Alberto Diaz, has finally got himself into the waiting room. We can have a chat with him now. Welcome in, Alberto. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on the race win tonight. It was a great battle between yourselves and John in the final run of that race. Tell us about the last lap and the last few laps of that race.
Yeah, it was super intense. He was in my mirror the whole race, and I entered the final lap and I thought, yeah, he's going to overtake me so easily. Like, the draft is so powerful. But well, it was a lot of pressure, and we got to the final lap where I managed to defend the position, and I think he went off in the final corner, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, it was an awesome race from start to finish, and went down to the wire,
What did you learn from the first few laps when the 5 of you were battling really quite hard? Some people in YouTube were saying, these guys, there's not really much point in battling like this, but it was very entertaining for us to watch, and we're certainly not complaining. What did you learn from the early battles that helped you in that last run towards the end of the race?
I see their point. Like, sometimes it's easier to go on a train and for everyone to make their own race, but I think this time I wanted to take a more aggressive approach. I think everyone saw it on the broadcast, so it worked out in the end. I learned that perhaps I battled a little too much at the start because I was losing gap to the cars behind me. They were catching me. So I started to take it a little easier, like mid-race, and then in the end it just was a loud battle with John.
Well, congratulations on coming out on top in that battle and taking an early championship lead as well, for what it matters after 2 rounds. We'll see you very soon at Road Atlanta.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks very much. That's Roberto Diaz in the first place here tonight at Road America. What a great battle it was, Ron. The shot at the end of the race is going to be, of course, the one between Graham Sanders and Aidan Young, and their exceptionally close finish on the way towards the line. But the battle for the lead was an equally memorable one as well, going the way of Alberto Diaz this time round.
It was a heart pumper right to the line here at Road America from start to finish. These drivers have put on some brilliant shows in the first 2 races of the season, and I have a feeling that as we bring in more races here for the 2025 Radical Americas Championship, the racing is just going to get even more intense and even more exciting.
And next up, it's Road Atlanta. 4 weeks' time on the 27th of April. We'll be live, same time, same place here from RaceSpotTV for that round of the championship. So I very much hope that you will join us then. Plenty more Radicals racing coming up between now and then, though, here on RaceSpotTV. The European Championship is at Suzuka in only 2 weeks. So make sure you join us for that, as well as weekly racing with myself and Ron on Friday evenings, European time. That'll be Friday afternoons over in America for the Radical E-Cup here on iRacing as well. It's always a lot of fun, so I hope that you'll join us for that one as well. What a round it has been of the Radical Sim Racing Americas Championship here from Road America. I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Ron Mounds with Romero Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras here tonight. We'll see you all in 4 weeks in the Americas Championship from Road Atlanta. But from all of us for now, it's goodbye from Road America.